Be Frank Network. Content on this production is for entertainment and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, nor is it intended to substitute medical treatment or diagnosis. Seek medical help if you believe that you are suffering from a mental illness or are a threat to yourself or others. By using any or all of the information provided, you do so at your own risk. Any application of the material is at the listener's discretion and is his or her sole responsibility.
Why is it that some people go to great lengths to try to hurt someone, whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, or even professionally, that they don't even know? I think in some ways all of us have been victim to this type of hate. We'll just call it what it is, hate. And the reason that some people go out of their way to do this is because they are jealous and they are reacting to their own hurt, not something that you have done to them. Somebody's action that they take towards you is not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of them. And it's a little easier to get through those situations and problems when we truly can understand that. But in the moment, we're really hurt. However, some of us have this unique ability to just kind of brush off the people around us. I know myself, through several times in my life, there have been people who made such audacious claims that it was beyond believable, but there are some people that, whether it's true or not, are going to believe it just because they heard it. And they have that mentality of, well, if it wasn't true, or if something about it wasn't true, they would not have said that, which is part of the whole narrative of hurting someone, is that we have to understand it's not about us. It's about them. It's about their hurt that they're projecting towards us. I really don't understand how miserable someone's life has to be in order for them to just sit around and try to hurt someone or discredit someone. And we see this a lot, even through social media, that people just are mean. And we have seen through news outlets, and I'm sure that you have too, of young kids. I call them young kids. I'm 38, about to be 39 years old, but these kids who are 15, 16, 17 years old, who are so hooked onto the dopamine of seeing these likes and shares and all of this, that one comment can ruin their life. And there have been several occasions where these children have committed suicide because of these audacious claims or just hurtful comments. Recently here in our area, a young man that I graduated high school with, his 17-year-old son, who is autistic, committed suicide. He had depression and anxiety, and people in school just weren't very nice to him being autistic. And we deal with these kind of things every day in life. But people, I want you to remember that, as I've said before, your words have so much power. Your words have so much power. Speak life into somebody today. Tell somebody how much you care about them. Tell somebody how much you love them. Or just give somebody a compliment. Just tell them what you like about them. And it doesn't have to be someone you know. It could be a random stranger walking down the street. Say, hey, I really like that shirt. Or your hair looks really good. I could say, I wish I had hair. But our words have so much power. So remember today to use the most powerful force that you have, your mouth and your tongue, to speak life into other people. Everybody, Doc Brian here, and welcome to Doc Talks. We talk about people's troubles, trials, tribulations, and hopefully triumphs in life. Today with me, I have Benjamin Thomas, who goes by Ben. But Ben, thank you for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. It means a lot.
Now, you're up north from me here in Arkansas. Is it cold up there yet? Has it started snowing yet?
It actually snowed today. Yeah, it actually snowed a good bit, but then it turned into rain. But it's here for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're still in that period of time where you turn your heat on at night and your AC on during the day.
Is it like 60s, high 60s in the daytime?
It gets mid 70s. Yeah. But then down 30s, 40s at night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just welcome to the South. Yeah, so you are in Pennsylvania area there, is that right?
Yeah.
So are you originally, were you born there? Where were you born?
I was actually born in Bedford, PA.
In Bedford, PA. Now, I have a good friend that lives in York, so that's not far from Bedford, is it? A couple hours?
Like an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah. So I probably passed you at some point in my life and never even knew it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, brothers, sisters?
I have two brothers. One of my brothers has autism, which is my middle brother. I'm the youngest, of course. And then my older brother, David, he's really successful. And like I said, we both love our middle brother, Brandon. He has autism, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for him. I love him so much, and
Yeah, they're special people. They really are.
they really are. Their minds are like you wouldn't understand. Like, you understand, but like being like having a brother that has autism. I was raised, and it was like a roller coaster. And you kind of go with them with that roller coaster and learn how they adapt to life, and then you just kind of help them.
Yeah, and they're so innocent in their thinking. I guess for lack of a better word, they're pure in their thinking.
Yes, and the brains, the smart. Like, I mean, he would memorize movie like credits. At the end of the movies, he would memorize the whole movie credits, and he'd be able to place it on a piece of paper, word for word. I mean, he might obviously mess up, but he would get like most of it.
Wow. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't remember a movie after I've watched it, let alone who was in it. So, growing up, was it your parents still together? Were they divorced? What was the family dynamic there?
So whenever I was born, my mom had me. I was the youngest. My dad and her were going through a really hard time. And whenever I was like 10 months old, my mom divorced my dad because he was cheating on her. And a very successful woman. And she took three kids, one with autism, and three boys. A lot is a lot, But she took that on, and my dad didn't want anything to do with my brother that has autism. So that was really hard for me as growing up, seeing that, like seeing that like my own father didn't want his own son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah. So how did that all work out there I mean, was there animosity there? Did he ever take him with visitation the way that he took you and your other brother?
There came a point where he eventually would do like every other weekend for like a night with him, and then eventually just kept going from every other weekend to months to 6 months to I think it's barely like ever he sees him. And I actually don't talk to my real father, and my other brother, my oldest brother, doesn't either. So my brother that has autism kind of is like, he doesn't. It's funny because people who have autism don't worry about like anything, right? But like people that don't have autism, our brains work completely different than them. We can hold more of a grudge towards people, I feel. And my brother with autism, the way his brain works, he doesn't care. And my mom and my dad, they talk emails only.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for visitate, just so my dad can see my brother, but he doesn't see me or my other brother though.
Yeah. And so as a child growing up, that must have been a little difficult for you to navigate as to he's an adult and why are we acting this way?
Yeah, I never really understood it because I was only 10 months old whenever my parents split. So I don't remember my dad being there when I was really little. But when I think I was 1.5 years old, my mom actually met my stepdad, which I'll go on more about him later on. But he was like my dad figure. But I had a real father that I would see every now and then. But then when I go home to see my mom, my figure dad would be there. So it was hard, like stepdad and dad, but then it's more so of a dad. It's not, like some people have a stepdad and a dad and they're really close to their dad and they're really close to their stepdad. But sometimes a stepdad can turn into a dad.
Sure.
That's, you know,
It's kind of goes along that term that anybody can be a father, but only certain people can be a dad.
exactly. And to walk into a relationship, which with my stepdad, when he met my mom, he walked into it knowing that there were there were three boys and one boy with autism. I guess he just was like, all right, you know, he really loved my mom. Like he would do anything for my mom. And, that just really showed. That's big. I mean, that's three kids and one with autism. I mean, it's just a lot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So in going through, junior high, high school, were there any type of issues that you had with school or family members, any type of controversy or anything like that you dealt with?
You know, in school, that's actually a good question. In school, I actually struggled with learning, and my mom really was supportive of it and helped me. But there was a lot of confusion with having a stepdad and a dad because my dad would tell me like, "Hey, I'm your dad. He's your stepdad." You know, like all the time. That's all I'd hear from them because he knew there was a jealousy there. He knew that I was growing more onto him. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And so I'm sure there was that jealousy there, but it was of his own doing. I mean, it's not like anybody made him do what he was doing.
Exactly. And like I said, my mom, she's such a sweet woman, and he cheated on her. She was working three jobs, and my nanny, which she passed away at 59 of lung cancer from smoking.
Mm.
She was a one woman, and my mom actually dropped us off there during the day. Well, she worked her three jobs during the week, and my dad just was working, you know what I mean? Just living his own life, you know, living just life without responsibility, you know.
Yeah. And so when the stepdad kind of stepped in, was she able then to not have to work three jobs?
Yeah, she actually, whenever he moved in and they met, he actually was a contractor, and then he went to work at a prison, and he was like one of like the higher ups management. He completely, I mean, I think she went from three jobs to two jobs to one job in like 2 weeks of them being together.
Wow. And so then, growing up with an older brother who's autistic, being assumably in the same school together. Did you go to the same school together? How much older is he from you?
He's only 2 years older than me.
Okay, so there probably was somewhat of responsibilities placed on you even inside the school with your brother. What are some of those things that you recall?
You know, I was 2 years younger than him. So my older brother, who is actually, he would be 8 years older than me. We each, or no, 6 years older than me. We're all 2 years apart. He actually had more of a role, I think, in protecting him. I'm just being the older brother, you know what I mean? And me, I kind of just was always there to stick up. But like my older brother, like stepped in front of me and was like, I got this, you know what I mean? Kind of attitude. But we always protected him. And the school we went to, actually, we all went to the same school until I think we got to like high school. And then he had to go to like a different classroom they had away from all of kids that didn't have a disability. And he did really well. You know, he graduated, got his diploma. But yeah, we always were really protective of him growing up, for sure.
Now, your brother with autism, does he work now? Is he high functioning? What is he doing nowadays?
Nowadays, he actually works at a coffee shop, I think 3 or 4 days a week. And then like one other day a week, he goes to like this, they call it skills, where they like do activities with him, take him on field trips. They do a lot of cool stuff. And on the weekends, he's just home with my mom. And then, like I said, my dad rarely ever gets him to see him, you know, on the weekends, like once every like 4 months, probably.
Wow. So presumably you went on to graduate high school, and what happened after high school?
Wow. Okay. So after high school, I decided I wanted to play soccer. I was like, I want to play soccer. I want to go to college. I don't know what I want to do, but I just want to play soccer. My high school year, our soccer team went to states, and we almost went to the finals. Well, after the game, we lost. The game before the finals, we lost it. And I had all these recruiting schools like, hey, I think it was like Penn State was one of them. And there's another school that's pretty popular, local school here, that were like, hey, we want you to play soccer. And I was like, and at the time, the girlfriend that I was with, which through life, I've had a lot of girlfriends, she was like, if you go to college, like if you go to that college or this college, like I'm going to split up with you. You got to go to this one. And I just listened to her. And, I look back and everything happens for a reason. But that was a big regret that I feel like I wanted to do that. It's something that someone held me back from.
So where did you go from there?
So from where would you
from
mean?
College, not playing soccer, what happened then?
Okay. I ended up going to a community college that was local to me, which is where she wanted me to go. I still got to play soccer, and I went for criminal justice, and I went for, I want to say it was a year and a half. I was almost done, and I dropped out, decided to try to join the military. At first, this is my first shot at the military. I tried to join the Army, and I ended up failing my ASVAB, which I was so nervous to take it, but I was ready for it. So I went back and I went to try to join the Marines, and I ended up not taking my ASVAB because in my gut, deep down, I wanted to go to the Army because my stepdad, who was more of a dad in my life, he was an Army Ranger. So I was like, that's what I want to be. I'm going to fight. I'm going to work for it. So I dropped out of college, went into the Army. The relationship I had at the time was done. So I was like, no one was holding me back. And I passed my ASVAB and then joined the military.
So can you explain what the ASVAB is for people who may not have any type of military knowledge at all?
Okay, so the ASVAB is a test that in all branches that you have to take. You have to take this test to see where you stand. So like you can take the ASVAB test and you can barely pass it, which I think is like a 32. And it can be different in like different branches, Air Force, Marines. Say like I scored like 80 something. So it was like really high. And you get to pick, the higher the score you get, the better the job you get. So obviously if you score a 32, you're going in as the infantry, which is the lowest paying job, and it's like the grunt work. So I actually scored like in the 80s, and I ended up picking infantry.
So going in, so you scored high but picked low.
I picked low, and the main reason I picked low is because my stepdad was in the Army and he was in the infantry. So I was kind of like, I want to be him. I want to be this guy. I wanted to be this guy that, I had in my life. And, unfortunately, before I joined the service in 2011, my stepdad passed away, but that really pushed my gears to join the Army and join the infantry. And I don't know, it just was like I was raised by him. I wanted to be him. So I was like, okay, I want to be a good dad one day, just like he was,
Sure. And so he passed away in 2011?
Yes, he passed away in 2011 on July 31st. And it was really weird how just things kind of spilled out from that. We were on vacation. So we went on vacation and we just got back from, I think it was, I don't know if you ever heard of Ocean City.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
So we went there and it was, beautiful, beautiful. The water's always cold, but it's beautiful. And we got back home and I think it was 2 days we were back home, and my stepdad, it was like 94 degrees outside. And I was like, okay, like it's hot outside. And he came up to me and I was like, hey, let's go on a bike ride. And I was like, he bought me a bicycle to Cannondale, which is a really big bicycle brand. I think he spent like $1,300 on this bike for me. And of course, it was a hot day, and I was a 16-year-old kid, and I was like, it's too hot out. I don't want to go. I just want to sit here and listen to music, watch TV, do my own thing. And he's like, all right, that's fine, and he's like, I'll be back later on for dinner, to help make dinner. So he walked around the house, like the way he walked around the house, our house was like a square. And he went back to his bedroom, got ready. He walked around the other way of the house, and I didn't see him. So the last time I got to see him was when he went back the hallway. And he told me, like, hey, you want to go? And that hurt, you know? It's funny how when things happen in your life, how your brain works, you know, how you remember certain things on certain days that like something tragic happens. He went around the house, and that was the last time I saw him. And he went downstairs, and he's tying his shoes. And my mom was down there on the elliptical, and she was working out. And he was like, "Man, that boy, I bought him this nice bike, and he won't go with me." And my mom's like, he's a boy. He's 16 years old. What do you expect? And he left. He said, I'll be home. Told my mom this, I'll be home and to help make dinner. My mom said, love you. And he said, love you. And that was the goodbye. That was their last goodbye. And then he left. And unfortunately, while riding his bicycle, and when I say this, it's not a motorcycle, it's a actual bicycle, he was going back a back road that we lived on. And it probably went out, I want to say like 6 or 7 miles. It's like a Milligan's Cove, it's called. It's a back road. He was going up this back road, and he always told us, the main highway, don't ever go on it. I'm never going to go on it. Never. I'm never going to go on this road, especially with you boys, like never. That day, he went 7 miles out, and he cut out on the highway. And as soon as he cut out onto that highway, I want to say it was like 15 yards from cutting on that highway, he got hit by a car. He got thrown into the median, which he was wearing a helmet, but the car that hit him was going 90 miles per hour. When they hit him, it threw him into like this median, like a culvert, or I don't know how you'd say it, and he died instantly. But the people who were driving the car were actually on drugs. That's a whole different. Of course, through time, and I hate to say this, but I don't wish death on no one. But when I was 16 years old, I did. I did wish death on them too. My brain was processing it, and I was like, they were on drugs and this and that. Well, they ended up both of the kids, which the driver's at fault. The passenger he's with, but driver's at fault for sure. But they both actually ended up overdosing. One actually like 2 years ago, and the other one like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. They both ended up overdosing, but they ended up weaseling their way out of jail. They never apologized to our family, which something that really hurts is even their family knew what happened, and no one in their families reached out and said, sorry for your loss. That was me when I was 16 years old. That's one of the worst days of my life. One of the worst days of my life.
Sure. And so now you, with this loss of your stepfather, who's like a father to you, you kind of take on that, hey, I want to be the man that he was. So you graduate high school, you go into the Army. You said you went into the infantry. What did you do while you served in the Army?
I was in the Army National Guard. So that's National Guard Army, which a lot of people listening, it's pretty much, it's the same exact thing. It's just we're home with our family more, and we do drill weekends. And then we actually in the summertime go out and do like an actual training, which is, I think it was like 3 weeks, 2 months. It all depends. It all depends on the unit that you're in. But the infantry unit I was in was a Stryker brigade. So that was really cool. I got to drive those around, which was awesome. But the Army, it was really fun. And I learned, it matured me. I had a lot of issues going on, obviously, just like mentally. So like going into the Army, National Guard, when I went to boot camp, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, which is right on the line of Alabama and Georgia. Columbus, Georgia, that's what it is. And I went there, and I made so many friends, and it was a really good experience for me. And
but you had a brother that was also in the military, is that correct?
Yes, my brother was in the military, but he actually dropped. He wasn't in long. He got honorably discharged, but he wasn't in for a long time.
Okay. So you're in the military and you're living vicariously, I guess we could say, through your stepfather. And then what happens next? What's the next part of your story?
So the next part, I was in and out of relationships with a lot of girls. I had a lot of girlfriends, and you know, I learned something from each one. And like the one girl I was with had a drug addiction, so like I learned that. And then like each person is different in their own way. Everyone, it doesn't matter who you meet, everyone's different. Eventually I got into a relationship with a girl that I actually ended up marrying and having a kid with. And, I really thought to myself, I was like, you know what? This relationship is it. This is the one, hands down, like she's everything. So I finally felt like I wasn't just going to be with a girl for like 3 months or 6 months. You know what I mean? Like it was like, this is for real. While being in the military, I found out that there was a chance that we could deploy. And it was Kuwait. We were going to go to Kuwait and we were going to ride the border, patrol it back and forth. My, at the time, fiance, which we ended up getting married, she was like, what if you die overseas? Like what, can happen? Because at the time there was a war zone going on in just that area. There were a couple soldiers dying, every like week there. And we were like, what are we going to do if like I die over there? So I wanted to have a piece of me here. So we both were like, let's have a kid. And we both decided on it. And, she got pregnant, and it was a very successful pregnancy, beautiful little girl. It was all going perfect. And then there was a twist, and there was a twist in the relationship where just, both sides didn't agree on a lot of things. She liked to drink, and her friends were just different than my friends. And we just slowly split apart. It wasn't even like we loved each other. But then it came to the point where we didn't love each other. We were just living in the same house. And I was like, this isn't how a marriage should be. I ended up filing for a divorce. Right before the divorce happened, something else really big happened in my life, which I will get into.
So did you ever get deployed to Kuwait?
I did not. Whenever the deployment was on the table, my unit had a physical test, and my unit actually failed like the overall physical test. My unit wasn't in shape. We didn't have enough people, and I was the only one that was in like physical shape, because there's a bunch of older National Guard guys that are on my unit, and they're just there for the 25 years. They just want to be in 25 years and then retirement, because in the National Guard you got to do 25 years, not 20. 20's active, but once we found that out, it was like, well, we have a kid coming. Like you can't reverse it. And in my world, at least, I mean, I feel like it was a decision made, and we both wanted to have a kid, in that moment in time. Yeah. So the deployment fell through. It didn't go as planned. And then we had a kid, and, right before we had the kid, our relationship was toxic and stuff, but I took care of her. At the most part, she took care of me, but we just didn't. We would fight, we'd argue. And then when the baby came, that was when a lot of things happened while she was pregnant that the relationship, if any of the things that I'm going to get into would have happened, we would have ended up splitting anyways.
Let's get into those things. And I just want to say for our listeners that this is it's a very hard story to tell, and very raw and emotional, so just hang with us here as we get through this next part.
Okay, so it was Christmas time, and I'm gonna start at the beginning. So this is January 2017. And of course, I'm talking to my stepbrother, which big part of the story that I did not let you guys know is I actually had two stepbrothers. My dad remarried, and when I was 1 year old, I met my stepbrother, which we always call each other brothers. Because I mean, if you meet when you're 1 year old, you're brothers. I mean,
Sure.
there's yeah, and we were best friends for life. We talked all the time. Like it was almost like I was closer to him than my own brother. There's a weird connection there that like brothers and stepbrothers are two different things. Like, I mean, the other family and stuff, but like there's a different bond there. It's almost like you can tell your stepbrother more secrets than you tell your brother, you know? And it was Christmas time and he was like, hey, I met this girl and I'm really happy. And I was like, good for you. And, she lives in North Carolina. And I was like, you're crazy because we live in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, long distance, it can be hard. And he's like, oh, she's moving up here.
Mm.
And I was like, he was just that wild. He was just wild kid. He would throw you for a spin is, the best way I like to explain him.
Now for context here, you would have been 21, 22 years old.
Yes, I would have been, I want to get this exactly right. I would have been 22 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have been
and
22.
he's how old?
He actually was a year and a half older than me. So, I mean, we were so close in age that we picked on each other all the time. He picked on me all the time. Like, I'm a year older than you. You're young. I was always the young one in the family. And my other stepbrother was like 6 years older than me. So he was as old as, like, closer to my oldest brother. And me and him didn't really talk that much, but me and my stepbrother, I call him brother even now. We just clicked. There was just a bond like no other there.
So this girl is going to move from North Carolina up to Pennsylvania, which, having lived in North Carolina for 6-7 years, I tell you that there is nothing worth being committed to life that comes from North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I actually got the chance to drive through the state pretty recently and stop, actually, not drive through it, stop, enjoy it. And, it's a really nice state. And like I said, she was going to come the whole way up here from there. And I was like, wow, she must really love you because it is cold up here. They were really happy. And I remember it was December. It was like around Christmas time. And at the time, me and my ex-wife, we were just sticking it out for our little girl because she was pregnant. And we kind of wanted to get like baby pictures and, you know what I mean? Because she was starting to show. We were more so like friends than we were husband and wife at that time.
Okay. So now, does the girl move from North Carolina to Pennsylvania?
Yes, she moved up. And it was actually December 28th. She moved up December 28th. And I was helping them move her stuff in. Her stuff really never got put away, but we got it up there to the apartment. And previously, I was living with, there were three of us, three guys, which is crazy. And this is how close we were. It was Mike, me, and Aaron. And we all lived in one apartment together, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. It was interesting. It was an interesting time. And I remember on the 20th, she moved in. And then like the first week of January, I remember like she was finally moved in. They were getting along. Me and Mike were like, hey, like I wasn't living there because I was living with my wife. Mike had a girlfriend and Aaron had girlfriends, many girlfriends. He had so many girlfriends. It makes me look like nothing. I mean, he had so many girlfriends, but he was a good looking guy. And, he finally found a girl that he wanted to just settle down with. And I was like, maybe this is it for him. Maybe he found the right girl. And, Mike was like, it moved a little quick. She moved states for him. So like, what's the catch? Like, we never really knew that, but we later on found out that, she was still dating a guy that lived down there and she was like sending him money and it got to be really weird. I guess like he was threatening her life and really crazy stuff. Well, we ended up calling the cops and they put an end to it. Like I said, that was like the first week of January of 2018. Now we're on to the new year. from there, she moved in, and Aaron was really happy because he had a girl living with him, and Mike, had a girlfriend. So he got really, I think, lonely at times because he just wanted to have someone there, but not just for like 2 weeks. Like he wanted someone permanently. And, he finally seemed like he got permanently set, is like I like to call it.
All right. So moving forward from there, what happens next?
I think about all the crazy moments that me and my stepbrother had together. And that last couple of weeks before the accident, we had so much fun. And the year before even, like that August in 2017, August, September, October, like we went to concerts, we did this, we did that. And then that last like 2 weeks before the accident, we were hanging out. We were, going up to the bar, just having a couple of drinks, just, we were always hitting it off and we were always just like best friends. But, working myself up to talking about the day is like the hardest part for me, because it's like, man, think about like a traumatic event that happens in your life and you're like, why did that have to happen? Like why couldn't it have been this way? Why couldn't it have been that way? One of those things, it's hard to work yourself up to it,
Well, when you can't work yourself into it, you just jump into the middle of it. So you witnessed the incident that took place.
Yeah.
That resulted in your stepbrother losing his life.
Correct. It's crazy. It's crazy how it all happened. It happened so quick. And for everyone listening, as I go into this does get really emotional, and it gets very, there's some gore in this. It's not, it's not something that I wish on anyone. It's not something that I wish my worst enemy, no one. It hits you right in the heart for sure. I've told a couple people this whole story, but actually I want to be honest, it's been 2.5 years since I've told this whole story. So I was at my house where I was living at the time, which was like probably 20 minutes from the apartment. And I was, messaging Aaron. He just got off work, and he's like, hey, why don't you come over? He's like, what are you guys doing? And I was like, oh, nothing. My ex-wife at the time, she didn't want to ever go out to eat or nothing. So I was like, we just didn't get along. And I was like, I'm just going to see Aaron. Message Mike, and I said, hey, Mike, which was his other roommate, our other roommate. And I was like, you want me to come over? We can play some music, for a little bit before Aaron decides on where we're going to go to eat. And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, come on over. So I got a shower quick. Was on my way there. I pull in, and I'm downstairs with Mike. And Mike's like, I remember every detail. I remember what shirt he was wearing. He was wearing a Hollister shirt. Like, I remember everything. When something like this happens in your life, you remember every detail almost to the T. If I could think about that whole day, and if I was good at drawing, I could probably draw every scene that happened. And that's how it's in my head too. Unfortunately, I went downstairs talking to Mike, and we were just chatting. I remember this. I remember leaning over and going to the amp and turning up the mic, and I heard pow. And me and Mike looked at each other, and we were like, Aaron. And we were thinking, because at the time, Shelby, his girlfriend, was upstairs sitting with him. He wasn't alone. So we heard a gunshot go off. Like, instantly, what came to both of our heads was, dummy, he forgot there was a bullet in the gun. He accidentally probably shot it at the wall or something. That's what we thought. So we go up, but it was like 2 or 3 seconds after the shot, there was a scream. And it was like the worst scream. I heard it through the walls, but you could hear it, like, you just feel it, like, in your heart. Like, you knew it wasn't good. So we're running up the steps because we went out. He lived at the bottom apartment, and then Aaron lived at the top because the old lady that lived down below ended up moving out. So they both had their own space so they could start a life with, their loved one. And I remember trying to beat Mike to the door. It like the weirdest thing. Like we're trying to beat each other to the door. It's like, let's just get in. But we get inside and we hear Shelby, his girlfriend, crying. And she said, he shot himself. I mean, it was like while she told us it, we were like running to like where he was. It wasn't like we paused and waited, talked to her, went. And at the moment in time, everything happened so fast that she called 911 and was explaining to them. And I remember hearing in the background the 911 operator, like everything she said to Shelby, everything Shelby said to her, the address, everything. I remember going across because we went through the one room. We had to go through the one room to get to where he was. So we went to the one room and we both cut right, and we both were like it happened so quick because like there was a couch there, and when we cut the corner, we couldn't see. We're like, where is he at? Like, did it happen here? Like we didn't know. Like, there was another room across from that room, so we were like, maybe he's in that room, you know. So we go dive into that first room that we thought maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was in the other one. We weren't sure. And to our right, he's laying there in a puddle of blood. And the crazy thing is, as I like went up to him, up to his body, it wasn't like lifeless. Like he still had like life there, you know, like he was still like an oh shit kind of, like when I looked at him in the face, like he was like an oh shit like look on his face, like it was an accident, like it wasn't on purpose, you know what I mean? And I just remember getting down. I remember grabbing his head and grabbing his like shoulders. And he was a big guy because he worked out. And, you know, I didn't know what to do. So I just put my like elbow over like with my shirt. So I was wearing like a hoodie over his head wound. And I was like, Mike, get me something for his head. So Mike got me a cloth. And Mike's like, let me give him CPR. Like maybe in a moment of shock, you don't know, should you do this? Should you do that? But like first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, CPR, like let's do it. No, it's not. It's just what he did was he shot himself in the temple. So he shot himself, and you can't. I don't know. It's hard because there are people that actually shoot themselves and they live. And I've heard a lot of stories in there. If you guys listening haven't heard of people that have either accidentally shot themselves or attempted suicide, their stories are amazing. You need to listen to strong people. I remember holding the cloth on his head, and the cloth slipped off, and I was like, it was just soaked in blood. I put my thumb like on the wound, and as Mike was doing CPR, it was gushing blood, and I was like, wait a minute, like this isn't it. Like this isn't it. Like this can't be the right way. This can't be like what we're doing. And I remember hearing in the background on the operator was like, where did he shoot himself, ma'am? And she said, in the side of the head, the temple. And she was like, he's probably dead. Like, I hate it. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I'm like, calm down, you know, but he's probably dead. And me and Mike are there, and Mike hears that. We both heard it. And he's just there trying and trying and trying and trying and trying to save him. And I was just there, like holding him, kind of just holding him. And then at the point, I don't know, it was a weird moment because like he was, like his eyes were rolled in the back of his head, and then they come back, and then they roll in the back, and they come back and roll back and come back. And you could, like I said, you could see in his face, like, shit, I should like, like it's too late. I'm sitting there covered in blood. I'm sitting there just like in a puddle of blood. And Mike is too. It's all over his face. It's on my face. And we both stop. And as we stop, we both look at Aaron's body, and it's just lifeless. He's gone. And as that moment happens, we both stop and we look at each other. We probably looked at each other for a minute, maybe 5 minutes, but it felt like forever. All I remember then after that was paramedics came storming through, ripped us off instantly. Like we were like thrown back, and the paramedic was like, he doesn't have a pulse. And then the other paramedic's like, oh no. Like you just hear like paramedics, I have so much respect for paramedics. They have to witness things and see things. The one paramedic's like, this isn't, like, we can't save him. He's gone. Like, he's gone. And me and Mike are like, no. I'm like, what? He's no. Like, there's got to be, you got to take him to the hospital. Like, we didn't, More so me realized that he was dead and gone than Mike. Mike, really had a hard time with that, wanting to believe that. And there was this news guy in our town. I'll never forget this bastard. There was a news guy in our town, and he'd listen to the scanner, and he'd be there at wherever accident or whatever. He walked right up into the apartment, like going to walk into the room that Aaron is dead in, lying. And he's like, hey, I'd like to get the story on this and that. And Mike's 6'5", like at the time, like 260 pounds. He picked this guy up and just like walked him down the steps and like threw him and was like, get out of here. Like, I understand people have to make money and news, but that's not it. You don't do that. It's just one of those things. And I remember just sitting there. I don't forget a single moment of that. Like I have PTSD from this event. I've had 4 different times since the accidents happened that I've actually, with alcohol, which this is why I can't drink alcohol, it triggers my PTSD. I've had flashbacks, and when I usually do it, I can smell the blood, actually. It's like the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. But
you and I had talked about this some time ago, because I had, where I lost my partner, and blood is, the smell of blood, the iron that you smell of blood is very triggering to me. And you and I both are avid deer hunters. And I remember asking you the question, I cannot dress a deer because of the smell of blood. It just sends me, but you don't have that issue.
I don't have that issue. And the answer that I got for that is everyone smells different. Everyone smells things differently. But for me, deer blood and human blood are 2 different smells. Like, that's just me. But I mean, I grew up skinning, I grew up hunting, and of course blood was never an issue. But then after that, I was worried, actually. Like, though that hunting season came, I was worried about what is it going to be different? Is it going to be the same? That goes to your head, but I don't know. I had a lot of people there just help support me. Mm-hmm. When I got my first deer, because I was worried. I was honestly worried, and I had a lot of help. And no, it didn't trigger me. It didn't. I was just thinking it was going to, but it didn't. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, for you can't. I mean, some people just can't.
Yeah. So with Aaron here, it would be easy for someone to jump to the conclusion that he committed suicide. But what actually happened?
A lot of people thought he committed suicide. And, Aaron was a sad, happy person. He went through mood swings where I feel like he was bipolar, and he never was treated for it. Kind of crappy that we live in a world where people instantly think overdose. They don't think like, oh, what actually happened? Like, what took place? So what took place was, while me and Mike were downstairs, Shelby was sitting on the couch watching TV, and Aaron was on like the shoulder of the couch, just sitting there. And he just got home from work, and he was there without his shirt on. And 3 months ago, from the day that he passed, 3 months ago, he said, hey, Shelby, you want to see a trick? 3 months ago, he did this to Mike, and he, was sitting there in the room with Mike and was joking, and showed Mike in the chamber he had 1 bullet, which is actually empty. And he spun it, clicked it, and said, Russian roulette. And he put it up to his head, and he pulled the trigger, and it went click. And Mike freaked out. Mike said, never do that again. Don't ever joke about that. Don't ever blah, blah, blah. Like I said, he was a daredevil. Like, he'd be the one to light the fireworks, and there'd be one attached to him while he's running away from the fireworks. Like, he was a daredevil. And, he was explaining Shelby the same thing. Like, hey, blah, blah, this magic trick. Well, the week before the accident happened, he had a bunch of guns, bunch of handguns, bunch. But it was a .22 revolver. and he was shooting. He just bought it, and he was shooting it, and he forgot a bullet in the chamber. He forgot that there was a bullet still in the chamber. Yeah, what happened is when he spun it, it was actually not a blank round like he thought. He forgot that he shot it, but it was actually a live round, and he spun it. And when he spun it, the chances of a revolver clicking, right? You have one bullet in there. The chances of, I got to think off the top of my head, I don't know if it was 6-1. He put it up to his head, and she wasn't looking whenever it happened. But, he was like, yeah, I did this to Mike, and he was mad at me or something, and then said something like he did it, and he put it up to his head, and he pulled the trigger. And that joke goes from being a joke to real life to him being gone. And that's why I always say gun safety is so important, because even though you shoot a gun every weekend, I don't care if you and you have experience with this, you carry a gun on your side for your job. You don't mess with them. That's something you don't do. And he always was a daredevil, always wanted to make someone laugh, which it's good to make someone laugh, but not doing it in that way. And from there is just where it all started. That's where it all started, and that's how it happened.
Yeah. I was taught that every gun's a loaded gun, even if it's not. You just treat it that way. But so you, of course, have the diagnosis of PTSD that you mentioned earlier. And I, with my situation, it took a while to get to the point of where there was some normality of life. And this tremendous loss. I mean, you have lost your father figure, 16, now at 22, lost your best friend, brother. You've had a failed marriage. And I mean, it just seems like it gets worse. But while it's hard, everything does somehow or another turn good. We may not be able to see that just yet. This was what, 2017, 18? So
2018, yeah. January 26th, 2018.
So you're 3 years ago, 4 years ago that this happened. So it's still really fresh. So what do you do? What do you do to cope when you are having these symptoms?
So now that I explained to you what happened, now I can explain to you the marriage, why the marriage fell apart. So January 26th, my stepbrother passed away. And then March, I think it was like March 14th or March 13th, my wife's Graham died. It was like her best friend. So she went through a lot. And that was a lot. I mean, it was a lot because like I wasn't there mentally. Like I was in a different place. I mean, I was like there, but I wasn't. It was scary. It was really scary because it's like, I look back on pictures and it's like, you're looking at the picture and you're like, he's there, like the body's there, but your mind, it's like, you can just tell like you can. Have you ever like ran into that before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, or look back on pictures of yourself before, or when it happened and then after it happened. And, as you work your way out of that slope of depression and PTSD and anxiety or whatever anyone goes through. But for me, it was PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD, severe depression, and it was anxiety or generalized anxiety. Like I said, around, I want to say, I'm trying to get the timeline correct here. So January, my stepbrother passed, and then in March, her grand passed, and then April, our little girl was born. Right before my little girl was born, I almost let go. I was thinking very suicidal, and I almost was like, life isn't worth living. Life isn't worth living. And then my little girl was born, and it was like, wait a minute, I got to be here. Like everything that I was brought up as, I wanted to be a good dad. I was in the military. I was doing all those things correctly. And then I was like, wow, I'm a dad. She was born and the greatest thing ever. And I was there every step of the way. and we co-parented really well. And eventually got to the point where she was arguing and fighting with me, and I was fighting with her. And, both parties were in the wrong. I'm not going to say it was one-sided like some people do. You ran into that too, probably a lot, hearing people say, it was them, this, that. No.
Yeah. Well, there's three sides to every story: your side, her side, and what actually happened.
There you go. Three sides. I've actually never heard of that one.
Yeah.
So April, she was born, and then May, June, July, I filed for divorce. And, at the time we were tight on money, and she's like, well, I don't have the money to file and get a lawyer. And I think the cheapest divorce is like $400, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, file. Like, that's no big deal. File. And I had a pretty good job at the time. We filed, and it took, she moved out and I moved into my own place. And that was really big for me because I was battling with PTSD, like very fresh PTSD. It's weird because PTSD actually, going through it, and I know you have experience with it, but the first year you're lost. And then it's like you start to accept it kind of as you move on. You kind of, it's so hard. It's like you have triggers, you have this, you got to watch out. You can't do this. You got to go around this place. You can't, I can't even drive through that town and past that apartment because it just rips me in half and brings everything back.
Yeah. And PTSD is such a diagnosis that it's different, for everybody. But I remember, as you said, I remember looking at pictures, and instead of seeing JP, my partner who was killed, instead of seeing him in that moment, I see him dead in that picture. Or I look at pictures before the incident of me, and it's like it's a different person, that is an alternate reality, and that's not what really took place. But there does come that point in time of where all of a sudden it's like a light switch goes off, and there's this clarity of what is actually going on that we realize, we're depressed and we're lost, but it's because of this and not just because we're depressed or we're, grieving. And it's post-traumatic stress. And so many people deal with it in so many different ways, and so many people don't deal with it. At the beginning of this podcast, I had a guest, Michael Brooks, who is the founder of the We Are the 22. And Michael, and you and I have raised money for We Are the 22. And he talks about, suicide amongst our service members. And I think that one of the reasons that suicide is so high, not just within service members, but within male capacity, is that we don't want to seem weak. We don't want to seem like the ones who need help. So as someone who suffers from PTSD and someone who has been in the military, what are your words to men that may be in the position that you were in?
So you need to reach out, and you need to talk to someone. You need to. There's a lot of people that don't. And if someone's listening right now and they're like, I'm afraid to, I don't know if I get labeled as crazy, or, what I mean, you reach out and you get help. And it's okay that when you get that help, if they give you medicine. I just want to say that I've been on 9 different antidepressants, and 0 of them work for me. I'm telling you, I know so many people that are on antidepressants, and they work wonders. They work so good for them. But for me, it didn't work. And I took 9 different ones through a 2-year period, because you try an antidepressant and you see how it works. And if it doesn't work, after so long, they say, oh, give it some time, let it get in your, and then you go on to the next one, you go on to the next one. So I just stopped taking, I just was like, I don't want this. But like I said, medicine is out there. And actually, when I met my wife, and we've been married now for 3 months, and it's been absolutely amazing. But when I met her, she told me, she would look in, I told her my story, and that's the last time I've told the story of my stepbrother passing away and just the details. And she wanted to know it. She wanted to know So she would know for triggers and for this and for that. Such a wonderful woman.
Well, Min, I appreciate you taking your time out today and telling us your story. And I know it's not easy to do. My story is not an easy story to tell. And I appreciate you for being with us and sharing your story.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. And if I can help someone that is either going through something similar, it means the world to me. And I love to say this, but mental health matters. And anyone that's listening and everyone that's listening, you matter and you are loved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm Doc Brian. You can find me at thedocbrian.com. All of my social media links are there at the bottom of that website. Of course, Doc Talks is a part of the Be Frank Network. You can check out all of our podcasts at befranknetwork.com. I hope that you've enjoyed the podcast today. Once again, Ben, it's great to have you with us, and thanks again for sharing your story.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you later.